Ryan, I'm excited for this next block because this is a Ryan Grimm question in the White House press briefing to Karine Jean Pierre, a question that I don't think anybody else, or a topic I don't think anybody else has asked about so far. You want to tee up this clip?
And you can see why based on her answer. So yeah, this is from this week in the press briefing. You might recognize this voice.
Last week, the Department of Justice acknowledged that in 2020, they had used, the FBI had used 702 authorities to illegally spy on a member of Congress. Can you tell us who that member of Congress was? Has that member of Congress been briefed by the White House?
I would refer you to Department of Justice, just not going to speak to that from here. Go ahead.
Thanks.
And then she so effectively calls on the next person.
Right away.
And then the next person has a question, so there's no room for a follow-up. And
it was very smooth.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not going to answer that question. You go ahead. Please ask a different one. And I feel like the White House press corps needs just so much better coordination and willingness to kind of work collectively. And you see this, you see this occasionally from the White House press corps. You'll see it on the Hill, for sure, and you'll see it with foreign press corps, where a reporter asks a question, the person that they're asking the question to refuses to answer it, and then the next reporter, rather than the question that they had scripted ready for, the German chancellor or whatever, they will go back and they'll say, I would actually like first to ask you to answer that last question. You didn't answer that question.
Yep.
Because, if nobody can get a follow-up in, then all somebody has to do to dodge a question is just dodge the question once, and they move on. And then there becomes a political cost to not answering the question like 8 times. And the press corps knows how to do this. If you remember a year ago, when the war drums were being beaten
100%
for fighter jets to be sent to Ukraine, when the White House press secretary said, no, we're not going to do that, then the next person would be like, so you said you're not going to send fighter jets over to Ukraine. How about sending fighter jets? What do you think about doing that? Or like,
I'm going to give time for my colleague to beat the war drums.
Yes. What if Estonia asked to send war drums? That was one of the. They were looking for every single way to ask a follow-up. And while the substance of that I thought was deeply disturbing, the cohesion of it was impressive. It was getting the press corps to really push the administration on a question that they were actually happy to answer. Like, she kept giving an answer.
Of course.
It just wasn't the answer that they wanted. In this case, she's just not answering. And I didn't ask if the Department of Justice had briefed Congress. I asked if the White House has briefed Congress. And I asked if she would tell us who the White House spied on. And this could be a situation where she just throws the Trump administration under the bus, because this was 2020. This was the FBI under the Trump administration. But maybe it was a Democrat, and maybe it was a Democrat that was illegally spied on.
Yeah.
And you could then kind of spin something up about that. But then you might not want to necessarily talk about it. So the speculation out there, all we can do is guess. But we know that kind of Eric Swalwell was in the news around that time for some liaison with the woman who turned out to be perhaps connected to Chinese intelligence. And so was it that? But we don't know. That's absolutely pure speculation. We do know, based on Wired reporting that's based on an internal audit of FBI 702 practices, that they did spy on some unnamed member of Congress. We don't know the party. We don't know the name. The White House is declining to say who.
If they felt confident in their substantiation, I think they would say it. Because especially if it was a Republican and they felt confident in their substantiation, I think that they know the Democratic base at this point isn't going to be upset about exercising 702 power to. And we saw this over the course of the Russian collusion.
Wrong, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Well, how much criticism did Carter Page get on MSNBC and CNN, Washington Post, New York Times for years until they stopped talking about it, basically? exactly. But I mean, if they felt confident in their substantiation, but I think you're touching on a really important point here, which is there is no cohesion on this question. And this is why I still like that the press briefings are televised, even though it feels like theater. I still like that they're televised, specifically because they show where the priorities of the White House press corps are, and you get answers to questions like this one. Every once in a while, someone asks a really good question that the White House just doesn't want to answer, and you see not only does she say the White House doesn't have a comment on that, she says, I'm going to refer you to the DOJ. When you didn't ask about the DOJ, you asked about the White House. And there's a reason nobody else in the press corps wants to talk about 702 powers. It's because either they don't care or they love that 702 powers exist, because everybody that they talk to in the intelligence community is tripping in their ear about all of these false stories on how the country was saved from destruction by 702. And that is, I think, very much worth televising these briefings. I love that we get to reflect on that when Ryan goes and asks a damn good question about 702 that nobody else wants to talk about.
I did reach out to the Department of Justice and say, hey, Karine says you should answer this question.
And what did they say?
Nothing yet. I'll report back when I get something out of that.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.